This is Carla Kettner, writer of episode 515, Pattie Sue Edwards. You're listening to the Blacklist Exposed on Golden Spiral Media.
I see the fire in your eyes, Rory, and it's terrifying. Welcome to the award-winning Blacklist Exposed podcast. I'm Agent Troy Heinrichs.
And I am Special Agent Rory. You know, Troy, I've dabbled with lust, gluttony, sloth, hell, even greed. But since it led me to finally replace Aaron on this podcast, so worth it. Thanks for joining us once again as we discuss number 68 on the Blacklist, Pattie Sue Edwards, written by Carla Kettner and directed by Donald Thoren Jr. Show notes and other intel for this episode of The Blacklist Exposed can be found at theblacklistexposed.com.
Now, if you're new to the show, here's how it works. We finished thoughts on last week with some feedback from all of you, our special agents, answering the profiling questions of the week. Then we discuss the episode in detail during the weekly case profile, featuring a synopsis of the show, just in case you missed it, before we dive into each of the characters' individual arcs. Then we get sage words of wisdom from Red himself in Red's rhetoric, before finding out what clues we missed from all of you and our special agent intel. And we got an interesting one this week. But first and foremost, welcome, Rory, to the show.
Thanks, Troy. I'm so happy to be here. I know it sounds cheesy, but this is a dream of mine.
Well, yeah, I mean, you were doing those awesome pre-shows in season 3 and season 4 on Fire Talk, and I decided it'd be fitting. It's like, hey, you know what? If he's doing the pre-shows, why not do the post-show too?
Yeah, I'm loving it. I'm loving it.
So this will be a good time. But why don't we go ahead and start out with a profiling question from last week. Aaron wanted to know specifically from all of you, why does Red need Sinclair specifically? Because I have pretty good answers coming up here.
All right. Well, Cindy Keith, yeah, I mean, I read them before, and they are definitely good. Cindy Keith said, I'm going to make 2 guesses, possibly for Liz to have an alibi when she kills Garvey. But my number one guess is that Vanessa Cruz, now that's a name we haven't heard in a long time, is going to be back to frame Garvey, and Sinclair is going to make a Garvey double to be caught on camera somewhere else doing something evil. Then they will bring him down. I think Red is hoping that Liz will choose the law over revenge killing by framing Garvey. He is protecting Liz.
So almost a Sin Eater kind of concept, but unfortunately we know part of that won't happen because...
Well, Vanessa Cruz was approached by Mr. Kaplan, so I'm pretty sure Vanessa Cruz isn't coming back.
That's possible. Who knows? Who knows? Belinda Kateri said to create the perfect alibi for him and Liz, having them appear to be somewhere else while they take out Garvey.
Very possible. Wendy Davies said, I think to create someone who has long been thought of as missing or dead. I wonder who that could be. I think Red having Sinclair to create alibis for himself and Liz is too easy.
I agree with you, Wendy.
I do too.
Marta said, I'm wondering if Red will have Sinclair create a doppelganger of the man in the duffel bag. How do we know it's a man? Did we see a pelvis bone?
We don't know what it is.
And frame Garvey for the murder with another fire scene. The bones can be destroyed with Liz, none the wiser. Oh, so Red might hope.
All good possibilities so far. But Donna Fisher said, I keep thinking that Red will need a way out of something big at the end of the season. So to create a doppelganger for himself to get killed and let him go into hiding / off the radar for season 6.
Whoa, that would be pretty cool.
That would be really cool. But we've seen Red on the run already, so...
Yeah, but I mean, a season without Red because he's in hiding?
No, we can't have that.
I don't think that would work.
No.
Ron Davis said, I think Red knows Liz wants Garvey for herself and afraid that she will kill him instead of arrest him. Since he is her Sin Eater, he will do the deed himself, unbeknownst to her, and ensure Liz has a foolproof alibi if she needs one.
I mean, if you had to go straight off the top, that's where you think immediately it's going to go. But Lauren Brittany Trout, and I hope I got that right, maybe to make doppelgangers of the people who were there the night of the fire and recreate the event in order to trigger Liz's original memory. I mean, I've long said the linchpin to this whole thing is the domino is the night of the fire, but can we go back that far?
We could go back as far as you want. Just depends on if you believe the memories as they come out.
We don't know. They've been altered so many times.
Yes. And George Nauman said, hey, Troy, this one's for you. Red wants Sinclair to create a Red doppelganger so current Red can transition back to Katerina. Thanks, George. Appreciate that.
Somebody was going to go there.
Oh, my goodness. So we could transition back to Katerina. If they flash forward a few years, it could make for an interesting end to the show.
I mean, hey, as we all know, everything is still on the table.
It absolutely is. Great answers as always, everyone. You can always answer the profiling question over on the Facebook group. Just go to facebook.com/groups/the Blacklist GSM for Golden Spiral Media, or go over to Twitter at the Blacklist GSM, or comment directly on the weekly case profile on the website, theblacklistexposed.com. Rory, you're the guest. Why don't you tell them what the question is for next week?
All right. For our profiling question next week, how will Liz get her man? I like that one.
I do. Is she going to trip him up? Is she going to stab him herself with his own knife?
Is it going to be Liz? Could
be. Never know. We'll
Never know.
Out. Well, now before we're subject to an audit of our own, let's go ahead and get to this week's case profile. Well, Pattie Sue Edwards is up this week. A wife scorned set out to find the man that murdered her husband for a crime he was wrongly accused of. Now, to do this, she creates a viral outbreak that causes the CDC to quarantine an area of New York City that just so happens to house one of the main server farms for the CDC. The CDC then analyzes the virus, causing it to go from biological to technical, infecting the New York CDC server. So first question I have for you, Rory, is what do you think of this concept? Biological virus turning into technical one? Is that a stretch or kind of like the story?
I mean, I honestly, I thought it was masterful writing and a brilliant concept, because honestly, it's not something the average person would be able to come up with or even dream of. So she creates this biological weapon to infect people, not to kill them, just so the area is quarantined so she can access servers. So the CDC uploads the patient information to the database, corrupts the system, gives her access to CIPRNet and the DoD servers just so she could find the name of the Navy SEAL that killed her husband. Now, that's one elaborate plan to clear your husband's name, and I'll go deeper into that later.
I mean, I can't even imagine. Just the fact that you have to be biologically inclined to create a virus in the first place, but then be technical to understand how to gene map it into such a way that it can be scanned by a computer to turn into ones and zeros.
Exactly. As Aram said, ones and zeros. So she coded a virus into ones and zeros to binary to turn it into a technical virus. I mean, these writers, I give them credit, all the credit in the world. That's an amazing, brilliant concept to come up with.
I wonder how that would impact Westworld eventually.
Jeez.
Well, it turns out that this virus was actually a program that did piggyback onto the rest of the government infrastructure, searching for one man, Lieutenant Caleb Cronin. She confronts him and gets the confession she always wanted, but alas, still goes to jail for the havoc she caused. So how do you think of this storyline? The blacklister's name is Pattie Sue Edwards. Red supposedly was going to buy some biological weaponry from them, but it went awry. So does this tie to Red? Does it make sense that this is a blacklister? Because Red had no involvement with her whatsoever through the course of this episode.
The only involvement that Red actually have was the guy approached him to get her the virus. But it was one of those kind of one-off blacklisters who's not really on Red's blacklist, but just really a threat that he gives to the task force. Sometimes I think like the writers were trying to show us that, how far people are willing to go for those that they truly care about, kind of like the Liz Tom, the Red Liz, the Red Katerina, and even last week's Invisible Hand episode, how far they were willing to go for the people, that they loved. So I think there's quite possibly a theme developing that we may see coming down the road.
So we're saying the first half of the season is Red basically building back up his network, his inheritance, or not inheritance, his investments, his funds and his people. You're saying this next batch of episodes here is all about how far will people go?
Yeah, I mean, basically, Red had to rebuild his network from the ground up, and he's obviously done a masterful job at that. But now we're kind of seeing, how far would you go for the people that you love? And that's currently what I think, the overlying theme of this is now. How far would you go to protect, clear, the people that you love down the road.
Yeah, he almost built up the business too well, right? Because he's being audited, because that's what the rest of the episode revolved around, protecting the assets at the Critter cabin, because an IRS man is looking to audit him, and Red decides to leverage Fagan to get him out of it. He was going to torch the Critter cabin, does not, so thankfully in no way were animals harmed in the making of this episode. But all the while, Liz and
I love that name, Critter Cabin.
LLC.
Love it.
All the while, Liz and Singleton do pair up and get a location on Damascus, a.k.a. Evil Glen, a.k.a. Ian Garvey, which they do, but an unexpected twist occurs.
Of course. This is the Blacklist.
So we have the Liz story going on. We have the Red story going on. We have Pattie Sue Edwards going on. Overall, did you enjoy the episode, or are there just too many stories going on that you couldn't keep track of what was happening?
I enjoyed the episode, and I usually do enjoy all the episodes, even the ones that we consider, filler episodes. I wish this one moved the storyline a little bit more. It did have a vibe of revenge and truth to it that seems to be like the overlying theme to the season so far. I wish we got more answers to #DemBones and more on how Oleander fits into that secret that Mr. Kaplan was willing to die for to ensure that Liz learned about. But we do know that Red said when he gave the fulcrum to the press, the truth will out. So I'm holding on to that hope. So I'm excited to see how the story continues and ultimately unfolds. As with the mother theory, we always said no theory is off limits because all of the unanswered questions that are out there. But I have and will continue to have faith in the writers, who are brilliant, I might add. This journey is worth the ride. It's been 4.5 years. We've been riding the lift on that roller coaster. We're waiting for that first drop. The excitement's building, and the drop is exhilarating. What do you think about it?
At first I was sitting there going, I'm enjoying the episode. I love Red. Everything they did with Red's storyline this week was fantastic.
It's beautiful.
But at the same time, I kept going, what the hell does Pattie Sue Edwards have to do with anything? Do I care about Pattie Sue Edwards? Do I care about this biological terrorism? I mean, if you really think about it, we have almost kind of 2 episodes kind of merged together in this, in the sense that you had the front had the viral attack, so you had the CDC involvement in the front back in season 2.
Yep.
Which is funny because that was the Aram and Samar hand-holding for the first time. And then here you have their ushi-gushi moments as he's going to get into the CDC servers. But then you also have the Frederick Barnes episode comes to mind from season 1, where how far would he go to harm people to find a cure for his son? So we're at that point now where Aaron and I talked about this, and the Johns mentioned it on the 100th. It's hard to come up with new stuff. It's a great way, a great twist of telling it, because it's a different angle, but it is kind of the same story. So for me, I thought maybe a little fillerish this week, but it definitely sets up something big for next week because I know there's another hiatus coming.
Yeah, no, I mean, I definitely agree with that. They're kind of tweaking some of the previous stories they've used. Even in the Angel Garrick episode, when they had, they found the huge, servers they were trying to get information off of. They can only do so much with so much, but usually they fit more of the actual overlying storyline into an episode. This one seemed like it had much more to do with Pattie Sue than it did with the Bones, the Hunt for Damascus, Ian, Evil Glen. It seemed like it had more to do with Pattie than it did with the actual storyline.
Yeah, I agree. Well, let's go ahead and get into characters then, and that always starts out with the music. And it was actors from Fringe last week. Did you actually know that Amir Arison actually played on Fringe once?
I did that because I love me some Fringe.
Yes. And actually, telling Brian last week was from Fringe as well. He was, I believe, either Olivia's friend when they were working together back in Tallahassee. So
I love that show.
It was great. But
I miss it.
That's why this one was great. The cold open, straight out of a Fringe playbook. Chemical attack wreaks havoc on the diner. Patrons are running around everywhere, and we hear Mick Jenkins drowning, which also features Bad, Bad, Not Good on that track. And then for the big finale, as Red escapes the audit, Pattie's husband gets an honorable funeral, and Liz identifies Ian Garvey. We hear Fall by Lisa Hannigan, which I thought was interesting. There was a side note on this final verse that's in there. I pulled up the lyrics, and it said, "Oh, the devil won't have me. I wonder who will. All our running is a crawl and burns for us right through the fall. So to me, it seems like, Roy, that this sounds like maybe Liz going down a dark path. She's going to definitely, flame out at the end. The devil isn't even going to have her, which means maybe there's some tension between Red and Liz potentially. I don't know if you read more into these lyrics or not.
I mean, look, as we all know with your multiple conversations with Mr. Bokenkamp, there's thought between everything that they do, whether it's song lyrics, whether it's, showing a clip of something. There's always meaning behind everything we hear and we see. So there isn't always a double meaning to everything. It just seems that way. Could it be the hatred Liz feels in that moment? Creating a fire inside her when she sees and realizes that Ian Garvey is that guy. And as Red told her, this ends in the streets. So this isn't going to court. This isn't her going to be FBI Liz bringing him in to get his day of justice. So that could be the fall that's fueled by her desire for revenge.
Very possible. Very possible. Good stuff. Good songs this week. As always, you can get them on the selection featured on Spotify for the Blacklist playlist, or you can get that on Apple Music from the playlist that we put together. Both of those links are over on the website. Just go over to theblacklistexposed.com so you can subscribe to those playlists and start jamming. And jamming Cooper was this week, right? He is just barking orders from left to right. He manages that desk like a boss.
I love me some Cooper. I loved how he's completely changed as a character. It seems like, to me, he always does a good job and he was always that guy. But now he just seems to resolve to the fact that the ends justify the means now, which is a way different Cooper than we've seen in previous seasons.
Yeah, I was really sitting back and watching him, and I kind of like this Cooper better. Granted, we had like the Cooper's towing the line at the start of the season, then Cooper's going around killing and shooting people. For the people for that boy episode that he had, and then this seems to be a little bit more balanced Cooper again, and I like the balanced Cooper, but yet you still know that he cares about his team because he said finding Tom's killer is imperative. So yeah, definitely go help him.
Yeah, they were definitely willing, at that moment to say forget the virus thing, let's find Tom's killer. But it's just he's always been that leader. Like he's the guy I'd want to work for, But it seems like even when Wrestler handed him that letter. He said to him, basically like, I know what you know, but look, we put that to the side. We got a job to do here. We're doing good things. It's almost like Red's the good guy for the task force now.
Yeah, probably. Good call. Good call. All right. Wrestler decides to play chicken again. If everybody remembers from when he took out that Russian limo in season 3, he decides to play chicken with the virus and an armed man at the same time. What cojones he has.
Oh, man.
He decides that he's going to let this man die to get the truth out. Now, the question is, do you think that he would actually let the man die? Or would he come in and rescued and saved him?
I don't think that Wrestler would let him die. He's not that guy yet. We've seen him get to that point, and he stepped back. Remember the cabin episode where they caught him and he had the gun to him, and they were like, they talked him back from the ledge. But ever since he's crossed the line and committed a homicide, he's kind of lost that Boy Scout slipping on a banana peel persona. Was he really willing to let the man die unless he revealed the truth? I don't think so. But it does seem like a little bit of red is rubbed off on our once beloved Boy Scout with the perfect hair.
Well, technically his blood does run through Wrestler's veins. Just saying.
That is true. That is true.
Now, Wrestler at the funeral, I thought this was interesting. So, number one, he salutes, even though he's not in uniform. I thought that was interesting. And that he seemed a little emotional as Patty was receiving the flag and the gunshot shells.
He did. I think that he's been on an emotional roller coaster, basically going back to ever since, he committed homicide and got hired a cleaner and went against everything that he believed in. Even though he kind of towed the line when it came to Red, that he really went way over the line. And I think that, he's really hurting for it.
He is. So let's talk about, there's a lot of non-U.S. listeners, United States listeners to the podcast, and people were talking about the 3 bullet shell casings that were placed inside of the flag. Like they're like, well, what was that? Was it something else? People were questioning it. So I thought it would be nice to talk about the three volleys and where it all comes from. So when you have an honorable funeral, an honorable discharge for a service member, you actually can have a firing team for a ceremony that can consist of any number of service members. Typically, you see a team of 8, but it could be anywhere from 3 people to 8 people to 10 people. And this has nothing to do with the 21-gun salute. The 21-gun salute is something completely different. So in this case, it's a non-commissioned officer in charge of the firing detail, but they fire 3 shots when they go ahead and lay them to rest and hand the flag over. And what you see inside the flag, sometimes they give them to him separately. Sometimes they do tuck it into the flag, but it's 3 shells signifying the 3 shots. And this tradition goes all the way back to the European dynastic wars, where between 1688 and 1748, the 3 volleys were shots fired on the field during battle, signaling a pause in the fighting. It was actually intended to allow time for both sides to remove the bodies from the field of their fallen soldiers. So the 2 warring sides would actually cease hostilities until the firing of the 3 volleys meant the dead had been properly cared for, and then the side was ready to resume the battle. The 3 bullets represent the 3 volleys fired and the 3 words duty, honor, and country, obviously for the military. So interesting stuff. Little history lesson for you this week.
Yeah, I mean, it's an amazing thing. I've seen one firsthand, unfortunately, but it is really a way to, honor those who give their lives for our country, in the name of battle or anything else. So I thought it was nice that they threw that in there.
Yeah, I actually my father was Minot, North Dakota, was up there. Might have been a missile man, don't know, but he was in the Air Force. And yeah, when he passed away, we had a 3-person group do the 3 shots, and I actually got the gun shells from that. So definitely really cool experience for those that have served.
Absolutely.
So moving out the rest of the task force then, Samar, since Liz now is reinstated on limited duty, we found out in this episode, she no longer can be the case handler for Red. Liz is back taking over that mantle. So instead, she goes back doting over her man and trying to keep him safe from the big bad virus and lack of oxygen that he's going to face, plus the urges that he might have down under. Such a great line. I have to pee.
Oh, man, I was dying.
Now, a lot of people had mixed feelings about this, Rory. Some people were like, Samar, you're babying him. You're not letting him do his own thing. He's supposed to be a trained field agent. Why are you blah, 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 blah? And other people were like, oh, it's so sweet. So which spectrum are you there?
Now that Liz is back, it's going back to the same thing. She's a background character again, but she's also now Aram's girlfriend. So, I mean, she did provide us with a sweet moment with Aram, to allow him to focus on task at hand. But, basically she just falls to the wayside again because it's all about Liz.
It wasn't even all about Liz this week. It was more Red than anything.
Yeah, but, even when the task force goes out, she can't go out in the field because of her restrictive duty. So, Samara will have something to do. She'll, kick somebody or throw somebody to the ground. But she's now Aram's girlfriend. Definitely.
Now we know Tom died in November. So it was very interesting that we get a little backstory here. Saram spent Thanksgiving together. And specifically, Aram loves apple cobbler. Have you ever had apple cobbler? I've had peach cobbler and apple pie, but I've never had apple cobbler.
I've never had apple cobbler before. But I'm willing to try it, though, if it, calms me down like it does for Aram.
Okay, so this is a challenge for Douglas. Douglas, if you're out there, for next Wednesday night, you need to make some apple cobbler with your dinner. Just throwing it out there. There you go.
Let us know how it is.
He apparently also does not like conversations about immigration. So he's trying to stuff his face with the apple cobbler and breathing through it.
He seems like that guy he's so non-confrontational that when a subject comes up, he'll just stuff his face so he doesn't have to talk.
What a nice guy. Speaking of Aram, speaking of him, was just watching Agent Keen doting. Oh my gosh, so great to have you back.
Oh, those loving eyes.
I was wondering if Samara was going to be like, hey, who are you looking at? Her or me?
Right? Hey, I'm over here.
But really, no, they are best friends. I'm both in the show and off the show, too. So I just thought it was kind of fun. So just Aram being Aram adorable as always.
Oh, as always. It was just funny when Cooper's like, something funny there, Aram?
So the big question is that he said he wanted to be field trained at the end of the fall finale. So he's in the field, and he's been in the field before, but he seems a little bit frantic, right? He's a little heavy breathing, can't see through the thing. To me, it seems that if he was field trained, he would be able to handle this task a little bit more, I don't know, non-emotional, more stoic kind of feeling. So does this mean he's field trained or he's not field trained, I guess is the question.
I mean, it depends, because even if you're field trained, I don't think you can ever, as an FBI agent, unless you work for the CDC, can you really be field trained to put on that kind of suit, know that you have like limited air to go into this field to do what he had to do? So I give him a little bit of a break, but this is like his third or fourth time in the field. And, he's a computer genius. That's what he does. He's never going to be a full-fledged field agent. I love Aram. I love his character, his comic relief, hashtag I have to pee. But I think he'll always be the tech guy forced into the field, because if you remember, the first time we ever met him, he was in the bakery when they went into Wuzhang. That's the first time we met him. He was in the field doing his tech skills. So I still love you, Aram, but I think you're the tech guy when that's all you need to be.
I can see that. I was just hoping that we get more on his field training specifically so that he could actually carry a weapon or just be out in the field more. So, remember when he was in the Gainesville Garrick episode and he had the gun and he shot the guy, like he felt so bad about doing, like, hello, these guys are shooting your friends. Like, you can't feel bad about that. You got to be trained to do that. Or just get a missile gun.
Or do that too.
All right. Well, I just have to point this out. Aaron's not here, so I get to say it. I already said Fringe this episode, so now I got to say Alias. But can I just take a second to call out that what a missed opportunity there was for all the Alias fans out there that we didn't get a Server 47 Easter egg. I mean, come on, son. Come on. It was so perfect.
I mean, look, it's your fault that I became a huge Alias fan. I mean, I blame you and I thank you at the same time. But we've had so many Alias references throughout the years that I come to expect them by now. So how do you leave us with no Alias reference there? It was so right there just to be written in. Joey's Pizza, Nick's Pizza. I mean, it was right there.
I mean, it is what it is.
We'll take it.
I gave Eisendrath a little grief on Twitter, so we'll see if he gets my message.
But John, if you're listening, we want all the Easter eggs because we love some Alias.
We do. All right. Well, that was kind of story number one. So now let's switch over to the I Spy part of the story, which basically covers off on Liz and Singleton. Now, Singleton talks about his family and his kids and how he was separated from them. I believe they were age 13 and 10. And the first thing that goes up in my mind, Rory, is that whenever someone talks about kids, they become leverage. Dun.
Yep. Absolutely. I agree with that 100%.
Now, were you surprised that he got caught? I mean, I know that we're trained as TV watchers. This is kind of like my one little gripe of the episode. You have to do this to set up the finale, and the finale shot was so great when she recognizes Garvey. But you can hear the phone buzzing. You have a sense it's coming from the room. You come in the room and can feel, I know it's in here somewhere. I just can't find it. Why do you open the drawer?
Oh, I mean, he was doomed as soon as he started opening up and talking about his family. Like, that was like the dun, dun, dun. But, I mean, look, honestly, I was surprised he wound up being a good guy in this situation. I didn't think he was. I thought that he was, basically gathering intel for Garvey, and he was with Garvey, But ultimately, his downfall, he gave Evil Glen the intel that, him and Liz had put together about Navarro being a snitch. But, yes, why open the drawer? You heard the phone buzz. Run back to Liz and the post office. Say, hey, I heard the phone. But, as they say, talk about getting your hand caught in the cookie jar.
Well, it is Girl Scout time of the month, so we got Girl Scout cookies all around. Nobody can resist those Thin Mints.
No, my weakness is those damn shortbread cookies, and they're always waiting for me outside the store, and they're like, hey, and it's like, oh, I don't have any cash, and they're like, no, don't worry, we take cards, and I'm like, all right, give me 4 boxes.
They take cards now?
Yep, they take cards. Everybody's got it.
I'm going to have to go run and work out some more. Well, I mean, I would have written a note. I would have put my hands on the desk, try to feel for the vibration, and then pretend I'm leaving a Post-it note or something. But he opened the drawer, so you get what you get.
But he was standing outside the office and heard the phone buzz. it was even Ian Garvey's office. You knew it was his phone. Just keep walking.
Does he know it's in there, or are we assuming he knows it's in there because we can hear it as the audience, right? Because it's geared up a little bit more for us to, oh, it's in the office. He's going to go, what's he going to do? And then he goes in the office. You're like, don't go in the office.
He walked into the office right to the drawer. Walk away. You know what happened. Has this guy never seen any TV shows? You don't walk into the office.
Yeah, he's got a lot of time if the kids aren't with him, right? He's got plenty of time to watch TV.
Yeah, well, I guess now he doesn't have to worry about hiring a new lawyer.
Exactly right. Because Ian Garvey catches Singleton in the act and lets us know that he's got peoples, because peoples are peoples.
We all got peoples.
He stabs them all over the place as his method of operation, and it makes it look like a robbery. But to his detriment, apparently he talks a little bit too loudly because Liz can hear him.
Of course.
Now, that was a great scene. When you think about it. So how is this going to play out? Do you think Garvey knows that Liz saw him? Do you think Garvey was unaware? How do you think that's going to play out for next week?
I'm not sure how they're going to play it, but you got to think he would already be on to her if he knew that she saw him there. But again, as Red said, you were concussed. You were in a coma for 10 months. So maybe he's factoring that in, that she has no clue that he was even there at all. And he's just going to play it off that, hey, I'm a marshal in this task force and I'll help you in any way that I can. I'm going to get justice for my man kind of thing. I don't think that he's under the impression that Liz knows who he is, but Cooper's face said it all when she said that's him. I was like, oh, this guy's in trouble. And
she was like sheet white. She was like,
oh, yeah.
Oh, my goodness, it's that guy.
It's him.
Scary. Well, Liz herself moves up a little bit this week because there wasn't a lot for her to do. She bonds with Singleton over some daddy mud. I've drank out of that thermos before. Not that thermos specifically, but a thermos like that. So I
usually have soup in mine.
I totally relate. Reminds us that Agnes is still with Grandma Hargrave. It's weird to say that. Grandma Hargrave. And then we get more Tom flashbacks because, of course, we can never get rid of Tom fully from the show. # Tom Gonna Tom. So How do you think, it's kind of the profiling question of the week, how do you think this is going to play out for her?
I mean, I don't know how she's going to handle it, because it'll be interesting to see the first scene between her and Red when she tells Red who it is. Now, don't we really have an idea that Red knows who Ian Garvey is already?
And that's the big question, because I don't know if he does. Because I would assume that they've met in the past or have been affiliated somehow or part of some network. So if they do know each other, maybe Red plays it off like they don't know each other potentially. So I think that's the interesting thing. I don't think we'll ever know for sure if Red knows him or doesn't know him, because it'll depend on the scene.
Yeah, the only reason that I kind of thought that he knew him was because why would he go after those bones knowing that it was Red's secret or his ultimate secret? And if he got hold of that, he could get control over Red. There had to be some kind of backstory between the two of them, for Garvey to know who Red is. Red has to know who Garvey is. Red always knows who's coming for him.
But it could have been just intel, right? So Garvey could know Red, but Red might not know Garvey.
True. But it'll be interesting to see how that plays out, because that Liz is going to tell him, hey, I know who this guy is now who killed Tom. How does Red handle that? What does Red do?
So what about the people that are now going to say # Liz gonna Liz? Because it's her fault Singleton's dead.
It is
in a way.
In a way, but look, the guy was a good cop, which surprised me because I really thought he was a bad guy. So props to him. But he got himself involved in it. He was doing the right thing. He just didn't realize, I shouldn't have opened this drawer, and now that's it for me. But Liz now is going to be on the warpath, not only because she knows who killed her husband, she knows who killed Singleton. But is Red going to let her, just like she killed the Attorney General, he's not going to let her go there again. Maybe that's where Mr. Raleigh Sinclair comes in.
Very possible. Very possible. Good call. All right. Well, it was super cute that Liz asked Aram for help with the phone number. Like, hey, bud, do me a solid.
I love that scene in Cooper's office. They were all on board with helping Liz catch Tom's killer. It was like, virus outbreak, whatever. Let's get Tom's killer.
No. Totally fine. Go ahead, do it. I'm all good. And then, of course, next week it's going to be on like Donkey Kong. Cannot wait to see what happens.
I have a feeling Evil Glen's going to have to jump over them barrels next week now that his ID is known to Liz and the task force, and now it's going to be known to Red. Now, how far will Red be willing to go to make sure Liz doesn't get her hands dirty? You know, again, like I said, she killed the Attorney General. That kind of set off a big chain of events. So that's the $1 million question. And maybe the answer is, like I said, Mr. Raleigh Sinclair.
Could be even Mr. Fagan. Torch Garvey in his sleep.
To me, Fagan, he's the new Boz. I'm just calling him new Boz. He's new Boz. His hair's not long enough to put in a ponytail yet.
There you go. Well, we have story number 3 this week. Off to the Critter Cabin. Dembe, sadly, just as the Critter Cabin bouncer this week.
Yeah, when the door opened, sadly, I thought he was going to say something. We got nothing, but he is the silent but deadly type.
That's right. At least he's not allergic to anything like Hetty is. Now, Smokey Putnam is back. A little freakish this week. Kind of the calm, cool, collected guy who gets elephants. All of a sudden, he's super scared of the big bad IRS man. So I am impressed that he's all read up on the new tax law, though.
Yeah, I mean, I was just surprised that he was even around this week. I forgot that guy even existed. He's been gone for so long. But he's afraid of the tax man, but he got no problem going around gathering up animal bones for the full arson effect. Like, what's that about? Like, oh, yeah, I'll get you some bones, some cats, some dogs, maybe a marmot.
Well, that's from the circus that he was working with. When all of a sudden the tiger dies or a monkey dies, he's got to clean it up. So he's used to that stuff.
Yeah, but, let's bring him in, set him around, set fire to the place, and, make it look natural.
Now, Fagan is back and is afraid to start fires again because he's afraid he's not going to be able to stop once he starts.
He does love himself some fire, and he wants to set those trees on fire. But my favorite thing was, I love when he said that Red promised him a sure thing, gave him a Viagra, and all he has to show for it is a 4-hour erection.
It was like the weirdest placed line,
ultimate line.
It was so funny at the same time.
I was dying. Like, when I watched it the second time, I was like, wait, I had to rewind. I was like, no, he really did say that.
But it's true. I mean, if you're an arsonist and you are this guy who just wants to, oh my God, I have to torch those trees right now. I mean, it's probably a pretty valid equivalent.
Yeah, I mean, like, you hear about arsonists and you see what they do and everything else, but you never picture an arsonist just standing there going, I wonder what that tree would look like on fire. He's just standing there waiting for Red to pick him up, and he's like, yeah, let's think about burning those trees.
It probably looks like a birthday candle. If you just do one.
Or two.
But probably the best of the night. Okay, so maybe the episodes don't tie together, the little mini stories don't tie together at the end, but Red was so good this week with the one-liners.
My God.
Is this latex or memory foam? Oh my gosh, take a snort. Then take a snort. That was so great. I find a good bedside chat to be effective and exhilarating. So
good.
So funny. And then, of course, testify, Brother Hershey. Puts his
Release
hand right
your
on his
sins.
melon. So good.
I mean, he delivered those. They were so great. I mean, we always love how Red is written, but it's just the delivery of it and his facial expressions and those how he does it is unbelievable. Because if a normal person said that line, I'd be like, yeah, that's funny. But like when Red does it, I'm like, oh my God, he's so Red. And he had all those great one-liners in true Red fashion. But he did it again. He made some real-world political statements, too, which, I don't know if I'm about that.
Yeah, he said, building a border wall, prosecuting people for smoking pot, building even more prisons to hold even more people of color. This, along with Smokey's new tax law comment, the politics stuff, to me, regardless of where you stand, blue, red, purple, green, yellow, doesn't matter. I mean, I'm watching it, and I'm like, haha, that's funny, because everybody, whether you like Trump or not, still likes to laugh at Trump every now and then. So
everybody loves to laugh at Trump. Who doesn't?
I mean, it's cool, but I don't know if it's just a little bit too much in my entertainment. I want to be entertained. I don't want to be watching the news, you know?
Yeah. I'm not so sure like political statements belong on a television show unless they're political by nature. You know what I mean?
Like you're watching The West Wing or something.
Yeah. I mean, if you're watching something like that and they want to take it, or I understand using storylines straight from the news to raise awareness, on some issues. But sometimes these things, it just feels unnecessary. Like we watch these shows to escape the reality of, our tax money is going to spend $1 billion to build a border wall. Like, really? But, I guess they put it in there to maybe raise awareness, but we escape reality by watching these shows, so sometimes it just seems unnecessary.
We're spending $1 billion to overthrow some country somewhere just because we want oil.
I mean,
crazy.
That's
Crazy.
the world. It's crazy.
But he has the best question of the day. And I never thought about this, but he says, why do you get to audit me, but I don't get to audit you?
We never get to audit the IRS. Look, for the reality of it is, we don't know where the government's money is. We just give it to them, and we just assume that they're doing the right things with it. But who audits the government? It's like, who watches the watchers?
The watchmakers?
I guess. Wait, in true Aaron style, you dumb.
You have arrived, my son. Well played.
I just had to throw that in there for you, Aaron. I hope you appreciated that.
Well, the jury will side with a dirty cop even if there's evidence of the truth. It doesn't end in a courtroom. It ends on the street.
Absolutely.
Now, do you think that they're going to be like father, daughter together, shooting bullets in a blaze of glory? Or how do you think this is going to play out?
That would be, to me, that would be great. Red and Liz side by side shooting it out. But I think ultimately Red's going to handle this so that Liz doesn't have to get her hands dirty. He just got her back into the FBI. She just got reinstated, even on, limited restrictive duty. She'll lose everything again. Plus, she has Agnes now. So I don't think there's any way in the world that Red ever lets her do it unless he uses a doppelganger and lets her do it.
Now, I think the best line, though, of the night was the one where he was talking to the admissions person and said, if wishes were horses, then beggars would ride. And all of a sudden, my ears went, whoa, I've heard that before. Where have I heard that before? Quick, search the internets. And it's funny that Red says this line because it was actually Liz who says the same line in Season 4, Episode 7, Dr. Adrian Shaw, Part 1. I think it's about 23 minutes and 44 seconds into the episode.
Oh, my God. I can't believe you know that.
Well, that's because I actually looked it up to verify it. But I was like, I know Liz had said it. I just didn't know where. And yeah, it was Dr. Adrian Shaw, Part 1. Liz is talking to Kirk while Kirk's laying in the hospital. And she says that my father said that. And I was like, oh, wait, is this a tie? Red's the father. Here's the big reveal. And then then she continues and says, oh, my adopted father, Sam Milhone, used to say that same line. And I was like, oh, damn it.
Sorry, Daddy Gators.
So, yeah, not quite a confirmation that Red's the father. And we know that at least our Red specifically knew Sam because Sam was the one that came to Kaplan and said, hey, Red wants to meet with you. Just come meet with them. But we know Katarina also knew Sam because Katarina told Kaplan to take Liz to Sam in the first place. So my theory might still hold a little bit in this, potentially, maybe.
True. There's nothing to disprove, and there's nothing to necessarily prove. So all theories are still on the table until we have hard proof. Because if we remember, we were told that Red is not Liz's father, and yet we've been playing it out now recently that he is. So anything's possible. But I gotta say, that was an amazing catch by you. When you put that on, I was like, wait a minute, for real? And I actually went on Netflix and I actually watched it, and there it was. And you have a gift from memory, my friend, because that was amazing. And the coincidence can't be overlooked here. We know that Sam and Red had a close relationship, so it could be something that one picked up from the other. Or does Liz misremember who she heard it from? Because we know her memories are all jumbled from back then. So I think it's an important line, especially since it's been said twice in separate seasons, has to have significance. But we do remember her memories have been tinctured with multiple times. But I did actually look up So I want to go over this, the origin of that phrase.
Wait a minute. You're throwing out the history lessons on your first podcast?
I am throwing out the history lessons. Thank you, WikiLeaks. Oh, not WikiLeaks, Wikipedia.
Okay, well, hit me. I'm interested.
So, if wishes were horses, beggars would ride is an English language proverb and nursery rhyme first recorded about 1628 in a collection of Scottish proverbs, which suggests if wishing could make things happen, then even the most destitute people would have everything they wanted.
Well, I guess wishes do come true because Red was pretty destitute and he got everything back. So he got what he wanted.
Yeah, well, my grandfather used to say you can wish in one hand and crap in the other and see which one gets filled first.
True. Horrible image to think about, but absolutely true.
But it makes complete sense.
The other fun part about this episode was the Zig Ziglar book that he hands to Fagan. And he said that Zig Ziglar book specifically motivated him to quit smoking, which I thought was funny because if you saw, I think it was around the 100th episode release, James Spader was on Jimmy Fallon, and he was talking about how he was reading a book, How to Quit Smoking, when he actually smoked the entire way through reading the book.
Which is just Spaderific right there. But the funny part was, I was surprised that Fagan knew who Zig Ziglar was.
Yeah.
Like, he wasn't surprised who the guy was. He was just surprised, like, oh, is this a self-help book? I know that guy.
A lot of people know who Zig Ziglar is. It's pretty iconic.
I mean, I guess I don't read self-help books. Maybe I need some help with getting self-help books.
Well, remember, he was in jail for a long time, so lots of library reading time.
True. Because we know he wasn't working in the kitchen around any flames.
That's for sure. That is for sure. We'll actually put a link up to that Jimmy Fallon YouTube link in the show notes for the case profile over at theblacklistexposed.com for Pattie Sue Edwards. So if you want to see that clip and hadn't seen it, you can go check it out over there.
All right, but the show's not over, so don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with Red's Rhetoric right after this.
What if you could live your life without limits, where every desire you ever imagined could be fulfilled? Experience Westworld, a show where every human's dark side will be revealed. After watching each episode, listen to Beyond Westworld, a podcast featuring humans and hosts from around the park, diving deep into HBO's illustrative narrative. Every hero has a code, and so do you. Download your itinerary and the show at beyondwestworldpodcast.com or your podcast app of choice.
Hey, this is Amir. I play Aram on The Blacklist, and you are listening to The Blacklist Exposed.
Welcome to Red's Rhetoric, that part of the show where we play two scenes from this week's episode of The Blacklist, and then you get to vote which one is your favorite. In our poll on the website, just look for Pattie Sue Edwards over at theblacklistexposed.com. Now, our first clip this week comes when Red channels the power of the Holy Spirit.
Mr. Hepworth, Thomas Decker.
Mr. Decker, as you know, the IRS is conducting an audit of Critter Cabin, LLC.
Let me ask you, how come you get to audit me and I don't get to audit you?
About the audit.
Granted, you use my money for some worthy causes, roads, schools, but building a border wall, prosecuting people for smoking pot, building even more prisons to hold even more young men of color, why should my money finance that?
There seem to be some discrepancies in your unrelated business income.
Hershey, you're missing the point.
If I could direct your attention to Form 990T, Part 1, 4A.
The essential point is this. We're all sinners.
Oh, sinning, that's
Lust,
the point.
gluttony, sloth, three of my favorites. But you're here because of my greed. Tell me, what's your sin, Mr. Hepworth?
I don't.
Of course you do. For all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God. Testify, Brother Hershey.
Okay, I don't think that...
Don't think.
Flow.
That's it. Let it out. Let it out.
I hate this job.
Amen to that.
Our second clip comes when Red looks to offload some real estate.
A quitclaim? But we were in contract.
As old man Quimby, my fencing instructor, used to say, if ifs and buts were candy and nuts, oh, what a Christmas we'd have. My God, I loved the foil.
That woman agreed to sell to us.
Well, as it turns out, you weren't offering quite enough. She accepted my proposal over the most delicious buckwheat blini and a tour of her surprisingly vast collection of ceramic salt and pepper shakers. But the funny thing is, I have absolutely no use for the place. If only there were something you could do to help me think of a constructive way to develop the property. Any good ideas?
No.
Really?
Absolutely not.
Maybe a massage parlor. The athletes would love it.
Oh, my God. Fine. I'll admit him. The Hepworth kid. If you throw in the locker room.
If wishes were horses, beggars would ride. Ah, Quimby, the man was a walking aphorism.
Which was your favorite this week? If you have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God, vote #RedSinner. Or if you would love a spa treatment after a game, vote #RedWishes.
All right, now let's move on to Special Agent Intel, where we hear from all of you on what you thought of the episode this week. So Kara Adler wrote, nice parallel B story with a wife trying to clear her husband posthumously while Liz tries to avenge Tom. Looks like Aaron was right, too. Uh-oh. See where this is going.
Don't let Aaron be right. I'll never live it down.
Poor Singleton wasn't long for this world, and he was on Liz's side with Evil Glen. Too bad he got caught. Can't wait to see how this progresses now that Liz knows who Damascus is. Thinks she's going to follow Red's example and get herself some classic Redvenge.
Oh, we haven't heard the #Redvenge in a long time.
No, it's been a long time on that one.
Nice. Marta Bolden chimed back in and said, I heard a line of dialogue last night that got my attention. The widow of the Navy SEAL says to the man who killed her husband the following. When my husband's effects were returned, there was blood on his uniform. I tested it and found two sets of DNA, his and the Navy SEAL who killed him. You. Now, 2 sets of blood on a garment, found that interesting because I've been wondering whether there was more than one person's blood on the shirt that Cooper used for Liz's paternity test. The shirt may have been Reddington's, but the snippet used may have had someone else's blood on it as well, Liz's father. This dialogue bit sets a precedent within the show for that possibility to happen.
That is an amazing catch because I didn't even think about that as far as having 2 sets of blood on the shirt that they tested for the DNA. That's amazing. I'm with you, Marta. I like that. Monica Stolfa said, a good episode. I feel it's building up to something big. I cheered and applauded Liz when she realized and remembered evil Marshal Glen and turned around and told Cooper. It tells me she is no longer going lone wolf on this. She's bringing the team in. C. Thomas Howell will be back. Yeah. Aram looks both adorable and goofy in the hazmat suit. I love Samar's support for him. Wrestler has nerves of steel to approach infected people like that unarmed and unprotected. Did you notice he was saluting during the funeral? You did mention that.
I did.
I didn't know he was in the military. You don't always have to be in the military to salute. Glad Red spared the groomer's business and hit the audit records building instead. Damn, I was really liking Singleton. I noticed that evil Marshal Glen has a thing for knifing people. Rip Singleton, your death will be avenged.
That it will. Linda Hood Cheney, on the other hand, said, oh my word, can we not find a new theme for this show? Yes, another chemical DNA weapon twist. Other than Wrestler at the truck getting the confession, there wasn't anything I liked. Oh, Singleton explaining Red and the bed. Samar had no business telling Aram what his priorities were. That's Cooper's job, and he's never defaulted it before. If this had been the first episode, I would have never watched another.
Ooh,
Harsh,
Linda's
Linda.
down.
Harsh.
Where? Wow.
I can see it, though.
Promise. Yeah, I mean, we spoke about it, how, they've been tweaking and twisting, kind of the same things, but sometimes you gotta get past those little things. We've seen it before. We love it. You love the show. We love the show. We've been riding this roller coaster for this long. Don't give up on it now. I promise it's coming.
And the astute watchers are picking up the clues. Like, could there be 2 things of blood on a shirt and the horse's beggars line? I mean, a lot of that stuff could be potential clues, even if you think the story might have been a little weak this week.
Yeah, no, I agree. Look, we've talked about filler episodes, and they have a place and a time. It's 22 episodes is a long season, to write. But Johns have told us they have the plan. We know that where they're getting to, or we hope we know where they're getting to, but they know how they're getting there. We just have to go along for the ride, and try to enjoy it. And it was a filler episode, but there were some things in there that if you watch closely, they made sense.
Sure did.
So Nate Trujillo, I hope I got that right. I'm sorry if I didn't. At the end of this episode, I was on my feet, clapping profusely and thanking the writers for another stellar episode. Here's the antithesis of it. I've been processing what I just saw and I have to say, bravo, bravo. The writing for the season has been amazing. I thought the Blacklister this week was great and oh so scary. I'm sad that Singleton discovered too late who he was working with, but happy that he was a good guy after all. We got Aram in the field. He still needs some work on the FBI agents. Can't freak out like that, dude. I can't wait to see what Liz has planned for Evil Glen. I have my guess on why Red needs Sinclair. Liz is the only witness to Garvey killing Tom, and Garvey might want Liz gone. What could Red do? Can't wait for the next episode.
Yeah, I'm nervous. I'm actually really nervous because what if Red and Garvey make a deal of some kind because the bones are more important than Liz is to him, potentially?
I can't see that. I mean, look, if you want me to throw the theory out there, as everybody has speculated before, when Mr. Kaplan gave Tom the bones, he said, find Oleander. We know Oleander is Dom. We know Dom is Katerina's father. The ultimate secret would be that somehow Red was responsible for the death of Katerina. Those are Katerina's bones, and that's why she wanted Liz to know the truth. If you want to go that far, that's where it is. But Red would never, ever, I don't think in a million years, give up Liz for those bones just to protect it, because he'll protect the secret, but then Liz is no longer here. So it kind of negates needing to keep that secret.
Yeah, and it kind of is a false positive on the entire show's concept of I need you, but at the same time, criminals aren't notorious liars, and he could just be using Liz the whole time. We've talked about that in the past.
Absolutely.
Maybe this is just one 6-season, potentially long con.
And sometimes the obvious is the truth, but sometimes it's also not.
It's true. All right, Wendy Davis closes it up and says, hey, last week we had Mr. Alibi Man, which was kind of like The Alchemist. This week is biochemist dude seeking revenge, hails back to the episode of Frederick Barnes. Are they running out of ideas?
Mm-hmm.
Anyone else irritated by Samar's smothering of Aram? Leave the poor dab alone. He'll be fine. Aram did look kind of cute in his banana onesie, though.
Hashtag I have to pee.
Hashtag banana onesie.
As I tweeted out that night, well, if you have to pee, at least you're doing it in a yellow suit.
Touche. The rest of the episode I really enjoyed. Red trying to avoid an audit by any means. Great to see Fagan back again, and looks like we'll see him again in the future. Rest in peace, Singleton. I knew you were not long for this world. Just glad it wasn't by the hand of Red. Having said that, the kill would have been more humane. Liz finally twigged who we'd known for weeks that Evil Glen is indeed Tom's killer. I agree with Red, though, that the situation needs to end on the street and not in the courtroom. Look at that. Wendy's getting violent. Looking forward to next week's episode. Not so much having yet another break. Wonder what the cliffhanger will be. Will we get a cliffhanger is the question.
Yeah. I mean, well, what do you think? We have what? 2 more episodes and then another break. They're going to kind of do what they did last year and go through sweeps.
Yeah, I think next week is the last one before the next big break based on the Futon Critic. They're suggesting next week we get 1 episode, then we're off for like 2 or 3 weeks, and then it comes back like right after Easter. It's for the final 6.
I don't know if we're set up or in a position right now to have a cliffhanger unless they're going to wrap up this story. What cliffhanger could they really leave us with? The bones, Garvey. I mean, I think that's the theme that's going to go through the rest of the season for real.
I mean, John had said that they have the best cliffhanger ever for the end of the season. And we're all thinking, oh my gosh, it's going to be the bones reveal. What if they do reveal the bones next week? And oh my gosh, and then Aaron's not here to do the podcast? He'll lose his mind.
Oh, he would definitely lose his mind. But I don't know. I mean, I can't see him. Let's say they wrap up the bones next week. Do you think the rest of the season plays out on how that affects Red, Liz, Dom, the task force, everything else will just implode. If that was the case.
Yeah. I mean, it very well could. It was kind of the situation with Kaplan at the end of season 4. We got this big reveal like, oh my gosh, Kaplan's back. And then the last 6 episodes was all about the war with Kaplan. So could a reveal of the bones next week truly spark something even bigger, right? One answer leads to more questions potentially.
Absolutely. And you think about it, we've been riding this roller coaster for 4.5 seasons, as I said before. The obvious answer, like I said, to me, if you made me put my money down on something, those bones are Katarina's. Even though Red never lies to Liz, I still think that those bones have to be Katarina's, because otherwise, what could it possibly be? We have no clues, no nothing that would be his ultimate secret that he would have to keep from Liz to protect her.
Unless he's Sea Duke, which is actually Liz's father, and the bones are Reddington's, the original Reddington's, potentially.
Right, and he's Reddington's brother, Ted Reddington.
Ted
Reddington.
Oh my goodness, that's funny.
It could be possible. I mean, look, we know the imposter theory is on the table. As we've said before, no theory is off the table because everything, is still kind of open-ended, in a way. So could it be that it's imposter Red? Sure. Could it be that he's the uncle? That's been floated for a long time already. I guess we'll just have to wait and find out.
We will, but we'll have to wait till next week.
Yes. So this will conclude this week's episode, but be sure to follow us on Twitter at the Blacklist GSM, where we live tweet during the East Coast feed and we use the show's hashtag, the Blacklist.
Don't forget to follow us on Tumblr, Instagram, and join the Facebook group. Just search for the Blacklist Exposed. Talk about the show, the podcast, or share pictures of your favorite critter.
You can also subscribe to our show in Apple Podcasts, Google Play Music, or your favorite podcast player of your choice. You can even listen from the website. But if you are really on the go, make sure you download our app for iOS and Android powered by Spreaker. You will also find all the intel and analysis about this episode, Pattie Sue Edwards, by visiting theblacklisexposed.com. Big thanks for listening. Don't forget to answer our profiling question of the week. How will Liz get her man?
Excellent job, Rory. Thanks so much for filling in for Aaron.
I appreciate it, man. It was my pleasure.
Yeah, and we will have Rory back again next week, so make sure you stay tuned and subscribe. Until next time, I'm Agent Troy Heinritz. That's at Troy Heinritz on Twitter. And if you want to learn more about me, just visit, about.me/Troy Heinritz.
And I'm Agent Aaron Peterson. You can hear me talking about movies and TV on the Hollywood Outsider podcast, as well as Remake This Movie Right. We are available at thehollywoodoutsider.com or on Twitter at 5popcorn. Be sure to subscribe, download the app, submit your feedback, but most importantly, keep yourself off of the Blacklist.
The Blacklist Exposed is a Golden Spiral Media production. Find more of our great podcasts at goldenspiralmedia.com/podcasts.